to go. I think the hour is upon us. Why don't we go ahead and call our meeting to order, please? If I could ask everyone to stand for a moment of silence, please. And then we'll ask Ms. Hambrick to lead us in the pledge.
Pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Shall we call the roll?
I see.
Mrs. Hambrick.
Present.
Mr. Anthony.
Here.
Mr. Lusty.
Here.
Mrs. Lilligan.
Here.
Mrs. King.
Here.
Mr. Shovel.
Here.
Mr. Shan.
Here.
Mrs. Pat. Here.
Thank you. We have a full house. Each of you should have a copy of the minutes from our last meeting. If you'd like to look those over for any possible corrections or additions. And if there are none, I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Ray.
Second.
And Willow with second. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Minutes are approved. Each council member should have also received a copy of our latest check register. And let me draw your attention to one of those checks, just in case anybody has scrolled it down through the checks, or any citizen might scroll down through there. We have a check to Bluegrass Liquor Box, in a fairly sizable amount,
$1,650.
$1,650. That is a refund check. So we just thought we would clarify that. We are not making purchases at Bluegrass Liquor.
A refund? You took your liquor back to them? Is that what you're saying?
Tax refund. Tax refund.
A license fee. Yeah. But with the exception of that, if there are no questions, you can indicate you received that report. Thank you all. And thanks a couple of council members for bringing that to my attention. It begged for an explanation. Item 5 on our agenda is public comments. And first, we have Dr. Unita Bryant. Please come forward, and looks like a health fair.
All right, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is Dr. Unita Bryant, chairperson of the Health and Safety Committee of the Georgetown branch of the NAACP. I would like to thank the mayor and the council for allowing me to share this information this evening. We would like to invite everyone to our annual Community Health and Safety Fair scheduled for Saturday, September 24th, 2022 from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Scott County Public Library. This year, this event is co-sponsored with the Scott County Public Library as well as the Ed Davis Inc. We have numerous vendors scheduled to set up at the event, some providing free health screenings and providing helpful information and services, as well as vendors focusing on CPR training and community safety. We are excited to have our local police and fire department service workers on site again this year, so make sure to come out and meet them, as they will have some fun freebies and goodies to pass out. This year, we will have a panelist of mental health professionals tackling questions and issues related to post-COVID life that persons of all ages have dealt with and are still dealing with. This portion of the event at 1 p.m. you certainly don't want to miss, so come with any and all questions that you have for our panelists. Following our panel discussion, there will be a free yoga demonstration available for anyone to partake in, so come and relieve some stress you may have built up. I know we all
Not
have
us.
a little something, you know. This is a family-friendly event for all ages. There will also be a kids' corner with activities for our youth to partake in. We will have door prizes, giveaways, and free refreshments for all of our participants. So all you need to do is just come out and we'll take care of you, okay? And just one last side note, if there's anything that our NAAC branch can do for anyone, just let us know, as we are ready to serve our community in the best way possible. Thank you for allowing me this time.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Next signed up is Kelly Riley. On behalf of the Farmers Market.
Hi, I'm Kelly I'm representing the Scott County Farmers Market. I'm one of the vendors that participates at the market. I'm here to talk about the possibility of doing farmers market pop-up shops downtown this fall and into December. We were kind of wanting them to coincide with events, shopping events that were already happening downtown this October, November, and December. We were thinking that if we could use that courthouse square for the market vendors that want to participate to be able to park in there and then close that off to traffic so that way any patrons that are walking around downtown during these shopping events, they could safely walk into that courthouse square area and then be able to shop with the farmers market vendors that are there. We're thinking about 6 to 8 vendors that would be participating in this. So it would be room for a parking space for the vendor's car and then a parking space for a 10 by 10 foot tent. And then, like for instance, October 1st, there's Georgetown sidewalk sale, and that starts at 9 a.m. and goes until 5:30 p.m. And so it looks like what we would be proposing is that we would be there from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So that kind of thing, just to allow for us to have time to set up and then be there for the, chunk of the time that most people would be out shopping.
Is that a Saturday?
I
Day is that?
believe it is a Saturday, I
Okay.
think so, yeah. And then the other proposed dates on here, October 23rd, that's Georgetown at night. It looks like that runs from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., so our operating hours would be from 5 to 7. November 26th is Small Business Saturday, that's 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m., so we would do the 10 to 5. And then December 3rd is Holiday at Home, so again, we would do like the 10 to 5 kind of thing. So I think the big thing is just wanting to know if there was a possibility for us to use that courthouse square and then have traffic not be able to run through so people could safely walk around there and visit with all the vendors.
Great concept.
Mhm.
The parking. Have you coordinated at all with Lori Saunders, our tourism director?
Well, she's here to help me. Yes, so we've been talking with her, yep.
Okay, the downtown merchants are really banded together well.
Yes.
And these sales promotions and events that Celebrate Georgetown puts together on behalf of the
Yep.
city and tourism have been really successful. So, Lori, as long as this enhances your events and doesn't stop a traffic flow, I want to hear from council too, but as long as it fits with your events, it sounds like an add-on.
That's exactly how we see it, as added value when you come downtown to be able to shop and go to the farmer's market up top, along with all of our other events that are taking place, whether it's G-Town After Hours, Small Business Saturdays, or one of the sidewalk sales. We do know whenever we partnered with the farmer's market before on special things like early opening on Saturdays at the local businesses, they see a bigger attendance in their shops and they see more people down at the farmer's market too. So they both really complement one another. So I've talked to the merchants downtown, none of them have a problem with it. They see this as a great partnership between the two entities, yeah.
You anticipated that very well. Nice
The
job.
whole point is just to help, just bring more excitement. We don't want to take away from anybody. We want to add, like you said, be an add-on to help just drive more traffic to downtown shopping, so.
Any questions?
Mayor, if Lori's good with it, I'll make a motion to accept it.
I'll second.
And second.
I only have one question. When is our Christmas parade and lighting of the tree,
First Saturday in December.
which is December 3rd?
Mm.
Is that gonna be a problem with them being in Court Square? Okay, that's all I have.
That's a good question.
Do you have a question, Greg? No. Okay, if there's no other questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hey, there you go.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. I think this last hen scratch is Roy Cornett.
I'm just here for the short-term rental in the Republic.
Well, we're glad to have you, Roy. Yes.
I forgot to sign up, sir. I'm still learning as I go.
Oh, okay. Tim, go right ahead.
We have our annual fire prevention parade coming up in October this year. It's going to be October 27th at 7 p.m. Assistant Chief Johnson is working on that. He's scheduling this, he's working with the county, getting everything scheduled with them. He'll be working with Captain Nash at PD just to make sure all the roads are clear. But speaking with Lori as well, she was saying that this should work out really well with Breeders' Cup coming in that weekend, so we should have a lot of people in town, so excited about it and just wanted to get that approved.
Motion.
Motion, thank you. And say, multiple seconds?
And of course, you all are all invited, and I hope that you guys participate and get on the ladder truck with us.
Thank you.
We're thankful for you, so.
Thank you for the invitation.
We get to vote.
Do we have everything we need?
We didn't vote either.
No. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. You get to have a fire prevention parade.
The inauguration of the new president of Georgetown College, we approved this a couple of weeks ago, but they decided that they want to shut the street down. It's just Memorial Drive.
It's a private street that they own, so I think that one's pretty easy.
Motion made.
Thank you.
Yes, second.
And second, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? And that inauguration was in my mayor's comments, but I didn't know we had to block the street. Good, thank you. Any other public comments, Tanya? Okay. Under mayor's comments, I've got several tonight. Just in no particular order. We just finished just one of the best festivals of the horse lorry I think we've ever had. Congratulations. The weather finally cooperated from Thursday night all the way through. It was a good festival. Those of you that were downtown Thursday, they spread out another block with the chili cook-off. So even though there were 44 folks signed up to cook chili, there was plenty of room in the street. People could middle around good. It was a much more comfortable event doing it that way, Laurie. And then it just followed through with a massive parade Friday night. Police officer indicated to me that followed the parade that it took him an hour and 18 minutes from start to finish.
Wow.
To get all the way through that parade. It was long. It was a lot of good community interest and support. Yeah, Roy?
Like I said, on Friday night, the horse parade, I want to give the police credit, whoever else helped them push the crowd back. The corridors, it's the best I've seen as far as getting horses through there in all the years I've been riding. Did a good job.
Good. And it's the Festival of the Horses is one of our best examples where you see Public Works, police, fire, you see all of our staff working together, and we had a great presence of all of our departments and just couldn't be prouder of the way our folks did. And the judge even mentioned today in his State of the County address, it's amazing. The next day it looks like the festival never occurred. It's just clean and put back to normal. That's pretty good. Wanted to mention there's been a fair amount of discussion among some council members. A number of them have called me, a number of neighbors have called me about the unusual fence on South Broadway. Some have objected to its appearance, but what I can tell you is that it meets our current ordinance. So we will probably take a look in the not distant future at refinements to our ordinance that can help us better define things of this nature, so as to have a few more controls for the council to use. So a lot of discussion about it. We've used our ordinance to the best of our ability, and we'll have to make some changes if we want to do differently. Many of you were able to attend the State of the County address today by Judge Covington, and that means a month later on 10/10/22, I'll be giving the State of the City address, and each of you are invited to attend that. I think Arlene will probably send out an email tomorrow or pretty soon. Something that we will be participating in later in October that we're kind of proud of. This should be a real fun thing for us to do. We've been contacted by the leadership in Elizabethtown, Kentucky, and they're interested in what our experience was a number of years ago with Toyota locating here. And they're going to feel the impact of the Blue Oval SK battery plant. So they're going to bring the mayor, their city administrator, their industrial development group, and a handful of other officials to town and spend a day with us. Andrew and their city administrator will work together with Jack Connor to put together an agenda. So it's fun to be able to share, and we feel kind of honored that they're going to come and do that.
Did they say how many employees that would impact their town with?
We'll get that more specific information before they get up to talk to us, but pretty exciting time for them.
Absolutely.
Let's see. I want to remind everybody that on September the 20th, just in a few days, at 2:30, we will have the groundbreaking for the medical office building. That's been a long time coming. So Chamber's going to handle that along with the developer, and it should be a real nice event. If anybody's interested, there's still time to register for the KLC conference. That's in Owensboro next week. I'm not sure there's any hotel rooms left, but if anybody really wanted to attend, there's time to do that. Always pleased to report to you all this past week on a Tuesday, since we were off on Monday, we swore in a new police officer, William Johnston. For those who are interested, tomorrow is the 911 breakfast, chief, first responder breakfast at the hospital from 7 till 9, I think. So all first responders are invited, and if you all stop by, I'm sure you could probably get breakfast as well. But that's an annual event that they do for us. We will celebrate with a proclamation and a photograph that I'm sure we'll see in the news graphic. The 17th through the 23rd of this month is Constitution Week. And we have a group of citizens that pay real close attention to that and come visit with Judge Covington and myself and sign a proclamation. Also really pleased that President Allen will be inaugurated on September the 30th. So big day for the college's history, big day for our community's history. Anything of that magnitude with the college is really important to us. So if anyone can attend that, that'd be super. Just as a personal note, I'm pleased that the night before, I will be made an honorary graduate of Georgetown College.
Oh, wonderful.
So,
Great.
yeah. So looking forward to that event. Also, big stuff will happen before our next council meeting. On the 19th, we anticipate the city clerk's office moving to the Rock House. We've been preparing for that move, getting it ready. We've got the Wi-Fi out there, and they're ready to make the move. So that begins our city hall project more in earnest as we begin to relocate departments. I think that'll be real handy for the public and for the clerk's office. I think I'll stop there. Also, on the printed version of your agenda, under Mayor's comments, item A is an executive order appointing Tanya Buck to the Human Rights Commission.
Do you need a motion, Mayor?
Please, there a motion? Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. And if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. Item B is an executive order appointing Ann Huber to the Georgetown Board of Ethics.
So, second.
Motion's been made and seconded. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, that's approved. And item C is an executive order appointing Carl Sims to the Georgetown Board of Adjustments.
Motion.
Thank you, Ty.
Second, Mayor.
And second, great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you. And since we're now in regular order meetings, we can, as necessary, walk things on the agenda. And we've been working real diligently to have our final appointment ready for the Human Rights Commission, but we didn't get it ready in time to put on the printed agenda. But Devin's continued to work on it, and we do have an appointment to walk on tonight, and
Yeah, everybody should have that in front of them, Ann Troxler. Or the Human Rights Commission.
and after we approve these, I'll make a comment about this.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made. And was it? Oh, second. Thank you, Mark. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This completes the appointment of the Georgetown Human Rights Commission. It's a very important step. This makes the fairness ordinance that we passed real. It puts all of the structure in place that needs to be in place. This also gives this Georgetown Human Rights Commission the opportunity to go ahead and meet and very soon in the future. We've invited the executive director of the Kentucky Human Rights Commission to come talk with this board as they're impaneled and offer them training so that they feel comfortable in this new assignment and this new role. So, very important step. I apologize to the council and to the other members that we'd appointed that I took so long to complete this process. But we thought it essential that we get just the right makeup for the first one. And I think this is a very balanced commission and one that I was very comfortable to bring to you. The reason we were able to do this is this new board appointment process that you all have worked with us to implement, where we now advertise these board positions on our website. We take applications over our website online. And we're generating far more interest from people than we have in the past. Folks that we wouldn't have known were ready to serve on a particular board. But now they're aware of the opening, they can read a job description, they can read what the demands are, what the meeting schedule, and make a much more informed decision about their interest. We're getting really quality applicants. Because we don't know some of these people as well, we've been just picking people we knew, struggling to fill board positions. It's given us the opportunity to actually schedule and bring these folks in for interviews. Not about their point of view. We just want to be good board members, but to interview them just for the fit for the city and the board. And we've gotten to know people. We think the process is working. So where we have made our board appointment process more sophisticated has really paid off here. And with these appointments and some that I will work on toward the end of the year, we hope to have all of these board appointments completed, tied up with a bow on now, where they should be. Okay. Thank you. Item 7 on our agenda. I've reported to the council that we're just over 6 months in to our transition period between Georgetown Public Works and Republic Services. We've reported to you about our administrative efforts and promised you that at this meeting we would have a presentation from Republic, and I'm pleased to introduce Greg Butler from Republic and to make a presentation and take council questions. And Greg, I'll turn the floor over to you.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for having me. It's nice to actually meet you. So I get the opportunity to speak before you. As Mayor Presley said, my name is Gregory Butler. I do governmental and community affairs for Public Services, mostly in Kentucky and also a little bit of Ohio. We're really excited that we hit the 6-month mark. It's a really telling period because what we find is as we do these transitions, particularly from government-run service to private service, is that that's when we can tell how things are really working, right? It is hard to communicate change to an entire community, as I'm sure you all know. And so my plan today tonight is to give a brief presentation of where we're at, how things have improved, some other things that we're looking forward to in the next couple of years, and then of course I'll answer any questions you have for the audience. Cool. So these are the 4 or 5 things that we're going to talk about. I'm transparent about this stuff. So customer service, cart placement, recycling, sustainability, how we're doing that as a company and how that impacts us here in Kentucky, and then community engagement. A little bit about Republic Services. We are the 2nd largest provider of waste and recycling services in the United States. There's a lot of numbers up there, they're all big, but to me the biggest one is that we do 5 million collections every single day. Right? We do a lot of stuff. And that, having that side of the company gives us a lot of ability, say if there's a weather event or something like that, we have the ability to bring in support from all over the country. We're excited about our company. We're doing lots and lots of new things. So we are 20% of our fleet is fueled by renewable natural gas. We're exploring electric vehicles and have them operating in 2 cities right now, Boise and Hickory, North Carolina. But yeah, just sort of a snapshot of who we are. Customer service, right? That's the thing that I'm sure most of y'all have heard about and gotten calls about. And so what I want to show you here is like what we started in, I'm so sorry. I apologize. What we want to see in terms of our volume of calls to the customer service center is underneath 4%. That's really our goal. These numbers are from the entire Frankfurt division. So that includes Anderson County and Lawrenceburg, Shelbyville, Simpsonville. Those are in addition to Georgetown as our contracted customers, and then whatever open market residential customers that we have. And so what you see up there is probably what you sort of expected, right? When we first launched, there was a significant increase of that call volume, up to almost 6%. And what we've seen since then is really that number coming back down, right? So after month 4, we really got back down in that numbers that we want to see below 3, or around the 3.5 or lower percentage. So that's standard to what we typically see throughout the year. And we're excited about that. We think it sort of presents the idea that, what we're seeing is less questions about service, less questions about, confusion about what we take and what we don't. That being said, we're always going to have phone calls, right? So people call in for new carts, they want to schedule a bulk item, they have questions about recycling. Not all calls are bad calls, but certainly important.
Did something happen in June?
June?
Cause a spike?
So sometimes you'll see things like the schools are out, like there's more people are throwing away stuff. There's like general spikes like that throughout the year. Particularly like December, January, we usually see a little bit of a spike because people get confused about holidays and they're out of town for 2 weeks and that. To give some sort of understanding of what this volume of calls is, every day in Georgetown we do about 4,000 stops between recycling and trash. That means over the 6 or the 7 months that we provided service, that's 120,000 stops that we paid. Right, so I understand certainly from your perspective that every call is important, that they all are there, and that the concerns are real. But also I think like the vast majority of our customers are getting service and have been the entire time.
Do you keep stats on repeat calls?
We do. Our customer service center is operated in a different part of the company, so sometimes it's harder to get data out of them. But I can certainly ask for that. I think that'd be a really interesting thing to understand.
I would like to understand that because, you know, if you're getting these calls and it's getting taken care of, that's one thing, but if the same people are each month are calling, it's another story.
Certainly. And our goal is always one call resolution.
Right.
We don't want them calling back.
Right.
And we'll get to it a little bit. We really don't want them calling at all. Nobody likes the line.
Right.
This is reported missed pickups, and this is specific for Georgetown, for the trash for every month. So you can see starting in February, we had about 250, and then that has normalized quite a bit, right? So between 100 and 150, starting in that third month of service, and then a continued decrease to just under 100, between 75 and 100 over the past 2 months.
Why do you have any missed pickups?
So we consider a missed pickup anytime somebody calls us and says, have you come to us yet? So a worry call could be an example. Most people are honest and tell the truth. And some people call us and say, you guys missed me, I definitely had my trash can out there last night, and we'll go back as a courtesy. And I think that, you know, again, that's a 99.998% of successful stops.
Like this week, as a matter of fact, you've done better than you did the first month. The first month you missed me for a whole month in my little street. And then this week, it's been 5 days. They finally picked it up today. So I knew it was gonna be off a day at the holiday.
Okay.
But, so I have a business, and then the little street that's beside me, everybody's trash got picked up, but it was 5 days until they got there.
Okay. If we can talk after, I'll get your address and I'll certainly look into it and
Okay,
we'll
good,
make sure.
because that's the
that doesn't happen
second time it's been missed substantially since we started. And
Okay.
so we're kind of on a small street, so I think they're missing us in a route somehow.
Yeah. Sometimes when that happens where it's like, suddenly it's just, your service is different than what you're accustomed to, it'll be because maybe a driver was on vacation or out sick, right? And a substitute driver doesn't know or is missing, it's just not as familiar with the
So
route.
it happens to that for, like, my case, I started putting it over in cardboard boxes, and so now it's gonna take me forever to catch up.
Yeah.
So would you pick, after being missed that many days, would you pick, because the other people up the street had extra trash laying out?
Yeah. So typically the drivers will go above and beyond for this pickup, right? I think
So
that-
they're aware that that's a missed pickup?
Oh, certainly, yeah, because we make them go back, right? We're trying to encourage them not to miss anything, too. We give them a lot of discretion, right? So we certainly have rules about what should be in the cart. We want all the waste inside that cart. We don't want our drivers to exit the truck unless they have to, like that's where accidents happen, usually lift pull kinds of injuries. And we want to prevent that. That being said, my understanding and what I see from our drivers is that if you put out extra trash once or you had a miss and there's extra trash because of that, they'll grab it.
Okay.
If you're putting extra trash out every week, we expect our drivers to tell us that because that customer needs a new cart. They need an additional cart and we need to service them properly, right? And there's a gray area in between there. Right? And so we find that it usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. The other things we'll see with drivers is that they will, they'll notice that somebody has a broken leg or something, and so they will start doing backdoor service, and we won't know in our routing, because when that driver goes on vacation, that person's like, what happened? Sometimes those things just pop up. Now,
Okay, thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
If a pickup is missed,
Mhm.
I'll just use myself as a hypothetical.
Okay.
If a pickup is missed and I contact you the same day,
Mhm.
will you be there the following day, or would I have to wait until the same day next week?
The following day.
As long as you're contacted to say that there was a
Yeah.
missed
If
pickup?
we can get it the same day, we will. Our drivers go home earlier than you would expect, because they start earlier than you would expect. So if you call in late in the afternoon or after work, that's probably too late for us to come. The landfill closes at 4:30, we have to have them there, and then there's things that do to end the day. But yeah, I would say almost all of, that's our commitment, right, is that if we miss, we'll go back as a courtesy, no matter what, right? We will make sure that we get that corrected. The only times I can think of exceptions are like if there's weather, like for example, that ice storm. We have DOT restrictions on all of our drivers, how many hours they can work in a week, how many hours they're required to take a break, from between starting the next week. And so effectively, we can always make up 1 day of service. But once we lose 2 days, there's no way to catch up. We just have to come back the following week. Because we can't have them work Sunday and then Monday through Friday.
We had one more example. Let's say today's Friday,
Yes.
and there's a missed pickup, and I contact your company. Will they come, if they couldn't get it the same day, would they come back on Saturday?
Monday.
Would they wait until Monday?
They would wait till
Or would they have to
Monday.
wait till the following Friday?
They would wait till Monday.
Monday, okay.
And, we balance our loads throughout the week, right? So Mondays and Tuesdays, we have more stops, and that gives us space to make up stuff as the week goes on. Obviously, any employee is happy to go home early on Friday, right? So we try to allow that to happen, and that creates more opportunity for us to actually go back.
Craig, on that last slide,
Yes.
would we expect that trend line to go lower, or are we seeing it bottom out now?
I want it to be at 0.
Yeah.
Our expectation, right now, we're missing about 14.75 out of every 10,000 stops in this Frankfurt market, right? Our goal as a company is 7,000, or 7 per 10,000, excuse me. So we're 99.998, it's close, but it is not what our expectation is.
Okay, thank you.
Which landfill? Are you taking it to Frankfurt then? Is that?
Yes, we use Benson Valley as our primary landfill, which, if y'all don't know, is just west of Frankfurt, exit 53, I think. I'm so sorry, y'all. In terms of customer service, the issues that we see when people are calling in, or that we're identifying on the street, is the use of personal containers or excess waste that's outside of or container placement, right? So if it's too close to a car, if it's underneath some wires, that sort of thing. Excess waste, unacceptable bulk. So we need all upholstered items to be wrapped in plastic. That helps protect our drivers and our landfill employees from bed bugs. They're very affordable at Home Depot. And then other bulk items that are just simply too heavy, that kind of thing. Like if you put the piano out, we can't actually.
Darn.
This is the cart placement, right? So basically 5 feet. We're not gonna get out there and measure it, but we need a couple feet in between those carts. And people often forget about the trees, so we need to make sure that we can get in there and lift that thing up without hitting a tree. One of the things we'd recommend is that, if you have not done so, to register online for an account with Withholding Services. You can download our app if you're into that sort of thing. It'll allow you to schedule a pickup. It'll allow you to report that a cart is broken or missing. You can report a missed pickup if you would like. You can even evaluate us and tell us how we're doing with our service. And most importantly, what it allows you to do is not have to call a rank number and wait on them. I think this is certainly the future of what we're looking at. And we have launched it for our commercial businesses so far. They say track your truck, so sort of like a UPS or an Amazon, where you can look on your phone and see, is the vehicle near me, is it already passed? That should be coming for residential service in 2023. So I think we're gonna see more and more of those types of investments and technological improvements that will hopefully be able to let us inform customers up front. If you sign up, you can also receive blasts to your phone or to your email that says, hey, we can't come down your street today because AT&T is working on the utilities. We'll be back down to that street level. And of course, anything bigger, broader that impacts the entire community, we do that as well. So recycling is going fantastic. As you guys know, it's an included service, but people do need to sign up for it. So we encourage anybody, especially if you haven't, to go ahead and sign up with us. You can call that whatever number. You can also request it through the app. Right now, we're over 25% participation. So more than a quarter of the residents or homes in this city have signed up for recycling. Our goal is to get to 50% in the next 2 years.
That's Georgetown is 25%?
Yes, ma'am.
What, is that normal, or, you know?
It depends. You know, I think Frankfurt's probably the best of the small towns around us, and they're probably at 60%. Lawrenceburg is a whole different animal. But that's something that we could use your help with, like from city staff, from the county, those sort of things. Figuring out ways to educate people, how to encourage this, that you know, this is something that we really believe in. And what does that look like if this is a shared goal for us? Really the things the other two big things are know what is recyclable, right? So not all plastics are recyclable, it's just 1 through 7s. We were looking for bottles and jugs. It has a mouth, has a lid. No playground equipment, no other plastic devices, things like that. And then if you can, empty, clean, and dry is always preferred. We won't reject it if you didn't clean up the soup can. It makes things easier at the back end. This is exciting. We're installing a landfill gas energy plant right now in Benson Valley. That will be online next year. And so we'll be creating renewable natural gas to power some of our fleet. We're also installing them in our landfill in Stanford, Kentucky, and in Trimble County the year following that. In terms of community engagement, you know, we've been out there. So we were out there at the Festival of Horse, excuse me. Had a lot of great feedback from people. We were able to answer questions and really push that app and that online registration. We are a founding organization of Keep the Bluegrass Beautiful, of which Scott County is a member. Jared Holland is fantastic, and the deputy judge serves on that board with us. And what this is an organization that represents communities that are not Lexington and Central Kentucky. We're a Keep America Beautiful affiliate. And so we get funds from it. We've raised $20,000 or $30,000 at this point. And for an organization that's started to open. Here in Georgetown, we did some beautification projects with Jared and his team around the city of Georgetown signage. I think we're going to see more and more of this in the coming years. And then internally, we have our own foundation. And so this is a Lexington project, but we actually built a new city park in the east end of Lexington earlier this year. And so that was $150,000 that we got from our foundation. We're always looking for projects like that with our community partners. And there are some of our community partners. Anyways, that's the gist of it. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have, concerns.
Yeah, 2 more questions.
Okay.
If I can ask a follow-up question on this pickups. If there's a missed pickup and the homeowner calls in, do you tell the homeowner when you're going to come back to pick that up? Are they notified when the pickup will be made?
Yes. So what we'll do, say you call the same day, the early afternoon, we'll try to figure out if we can do it that day, and we'll communicate that to you. And what the dispatcher would probably say is, we're going to try today, but we can come tomorrow. And if you could just please leave your container outside, and we will service it.
Okay. And then the second question is, Karen, I think you might have mentioned this in a previous meeting. I know somebody did. I thought it was you. I could be wrong. If a pickup is made and then the driver of that truck puts the can back down and the can turns over, what's the procedure there?
They are supposed to place the cart back where they found it, how they found it. The only exception to that would be like if it's placed in an unsafe space. In that situation, we would want them to place it where it should go, and they should put a hang tag on that container that says, hey, this is where we liked it. We do the same thing for anything else that we intentionally do not collect. Right? So the driver should be getting out, documenting that with a tag, taking a photo of it, and submitting a report to us. We send that to the city every day, just as sort of a reference to what we've learned. But our goal is to educate customers.
But if the driver happens to drop the can, that's not.
Yeah. My expectation is that they're getting out and they're collecting it, or they're putting it back up where it should. drivers have a really tough job. You know, like we are preaching to them every day, like be more productive. And at the same time, we're saying, but be safe, right? And like these things don't actually work. There's a lot of tension there. And so sometimes what we'll find is that we have to reemphasize with the drivers that it is important to take your time and to not start the truck before you let go of the cart. That's usually when that sort of thing happens. And so, yeah, some, drivers have to be educated, just like we all do, right? Continuing education is a huge part of things.
So if someone was to call in, because I had a strange situation 2 times that they picked up the trash, and actually it was last month. My cans are, according to my cans are too close. I need to spread them out so they got a little more room. But the way ours are, they have to kind of back, and then we're close to like a major road. And when I came in, my 4 cans looked like they were marching to town. They had taken them out towards the main road and left them twice. And I thought that was the strangest thing as to what message were they trying to send me. But I do know I need to separate them. But and at the time, I was unable to go get them because I was on a walker, go get them and bring them back in. So I had to get somebody else to do that for me. So it was just strange. But then the 3rd time, they didn't do that. So I thought the message, but I do need to separate them a little bit. But that was rather strange that they took them that far out.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, they shouldn't do that.
I couldn't figure out what that was. So something
glad
like
they
that.
tried to figure it out.
If something like that happened, I should call and say something kind of strange happened here and let you know so the driver doesn't take them to.
Yeah, and certainly as council members, you're welcome to call me anytime.
Okay.
I'll happily answer your question and figure things out.
Okay.
And I will spare you the call of 1-800.
Hey, I like that. That's good. How many employees do you have that you employ here in Georgetown?
There are 4 residential trash drivers and there are 2 residential recycling drivers.
Six total,
Yeah.
and 40 hours a week on their average hours that they're putting in?
They work 55 hours a week, so 10.5 hours a day, half-hour lunch break. That's sort of, what we find is, we used to have employees that work 70, 80 hours and they weren't going home. We have a happier workforce by not letting them do that.
I bet you do. One other question I had, a resident asked me, and when I come in, it's already there by time 6:30 almost. They must start at 6 o'clock. What time in the morning do they start?
It is in the contract, and I want to say it's 6 a.m., but I could be wrong about that.
Okay. It must
We
be.
do have a sort of an exception to do downtown first, right? Because we want to make sure that we're in there before the parked cars.
That was the people live in apartments downtown, and they were kind of complaining that they heard them come in early, and I said, I don't know what time they start.
I leave the house at 5:45,
Uh-huh.
and they're usually heading into town at that time when I'm leaving. So,
Mhm.
Yeah, they start their days probably around 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
are all of your trucks the same size?
In Georgetown?
Yes. Do they have
Yeah, they're all
difficulty?
28
Do they
yards.
have any difficulty maneuvering down smaller streets with the size of the truck you have? Because I know the city had smaller trucks and were able to get in some tight areas.
For the downtown area.
Yes.
We really need.
Right.
Yeah. I know that, downtown's been a struggle, I think, as the mayor was saying earlier, right? The business owners of downtown are all, in every downtown, are very united, and they always have, they're very vocal. So last week, Robert was kind enough to join us, and part of our operations team, and we toured downtown and sort of came up with a plan of what we could be doing instead to service that in a way that satisfies everybody. We also, what we wanted is to make sure that we understood the total volume of the waste that was coming out of there. And last week was awful to do that, between the holiday and also the festival. Of course, not actually a real representation of that. So I think our plan is to have a presentation for city staff next week. And then we'll go from there and sort of figure out what works. But it's been on our radar. We've been working with the mayor to try and identify a solution. Yeah. and we'll get that.
I told you we were gonna, it was gonna be walked.
Yeah.
And actually boots on the ground. And we haven't heard the proposal back from
Okay.
that.
Now, I've had several complaints about personal cans, and you all just absolutely ignore them. Or do you all empty them? Do you all say, hey, look, this is one-time courtesy thing, or how are you all supposed to handle that?
We only service our containers.
Right.
And there's a number of reasons for that, but mostly is that the containers that you purchase at Lowe's or Home Depot or their equivalent are not built to the same standards that ours are. And people get upset when the law breaks the code, things like that. And it's just too much of a headache. We were doing that as a courtesy in the beginning, right, and educating people and saying like, hey, this is an option for you to bring a second cart for $4 a month, which we certainly feel is a reasonable rate, right, a discount on the first cart. As far as I know, it's not happening that much. We should have really gotten rid of most of those issues within those first 2 months. I think that and the bulk, right, the word seems to have filtered out through the community, like, that it's a little bit different than what it used to be, and, we still provide good service.
Is 55 hours a normal weekly schedule for drivers?
It is.
Greg, related to that, where do you start your drivers in terms of pay?
Oh, great question. The average right now, without benefits, is around $24 an hour, and that's for the whole driving force. I don't actually know the starting pay, what it currently is. I can find out for you. It's just not actually 100%.
But you do provide benefits as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then while you're up there, Mayor, Lori Saunders, did you have, I guess, maybe a request for downtown in terms of Roy Cornett, maybe, I guess?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. You all want to pose the question, I guess, to Greg while we got
Sure,
here?
sure.
Start off with Tom, all the Republic personnel and all the city personnel, Andrew, everybody's been very nice. Bottom line is, garbage hasn't been picked up. I've got 2 big buildings downtown Georgetown. One time, the search for Rebecca moved in, well, I think 5 or 6 new containers a month ahead, anticipating my truck. First time they didn't get picked up, and a red car sitting in the way. Wait till the next Friday, don't pick up 6:30 on Friday morning. Wait till next Friday, they didn't pick it up because they were overstuffed. I started calling in, talking over this. Bruin can't pick it up, his guy can't pick it up that following Thursday, so we called out 2 weeks before it got picked up, and I was on the phone every day. So when I said you call, people call in, you get them next day. Now this boy, sure. My name's Roy Cornett, I like your number. I've been talking to Carissa, and I tell them that 2 people, I haven't talked to you.
That's right. Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that I want to be clear, like, these are our expectations of service today. And let's be honest, like February and March was a whole different story, right? We were learning the routes. There's lots of things that we didn't know yet, and lots of stuff like that. I think weather was certainly a big part of that time of year as well.
Past Friday, they pick it up. Every day I realized.
Yeah.
That's the horse going on. Guess who picked it up Saturday morning? Mr. Bruin. He had not doing his job.
I'll look into it.
Thanks for calling.
I also was, I don't want to need to get down, but I'm here to voice a concern, complaint, an issue with your company. It's now the time when my speaker out turns.
I'm here.
Okay. My name is Jack Legacy. I live out in college, and I've been a resident of Scott County ever since 1996. Out in the county, we didn't have, we had our own garbage service, we didn't have service. I had various companies, your company, I had various companies from 1996. I moved to the city about 5 years ago. And in the county, like I said, I had your company, at the end I had a company called ITS, I had 3 or 4 different companies. And I'm just gonna be blunt, your company was the worst. And I see it now the city is transferred over to Republic. This sounds like a minute issue, but I'm gonna tell you my complaint. And it's not really about the money, it's about the treatment. Okay? About 2 months ago, well, I don't know how, it's been several months since we sheltered Republic. I mean, I usually would never say this about any service, but the city service was great. Usually a public company is worse than the private, because the private could have used for more about customer service. But since we switched over to Republic, I've had some issues. Right? First issue, this is minor, just got a phone call saying my trash day was switched from Friday to Wednesday, right? No literature. I don't know what he picked up, what the changes are. I said, well, I gotta get some literature to say what you would accept and what you don't. Now, I don't know if it was miscommunicated, I was prosecuted, but that's a minor thing. I'm just doing it as an acute. Then about a month later, because I come from the county, and so I'm gonna show you this picture, I know you.
Yeah, we need, normally these comments, sir, last about 5 minutes.
Okay.
So if you could come to your point or ask your question, that'd be helpful.
Here's the point, I'll get to the point.
Thank you.
The point is, I have a trash can identical to the city trash can. Here's a picture of it, side by side. I put out trash a month ago. I got a nasty note from your driver saying, we do not take personal cans. Look at those two cans, what I did. I have no, I even called the other day and said, okay, you know, what do I need to do to get additional, they said, well, get another can. It costs $4. Well, they said, I said, well, I've got a can that's identical. So isn't taking up space, it's bureaucratic. If I've got one can, Ava said, charge me $4, but don't give me a can. Look up and said, no, I have to have it in your can. So it's clever, and that's my issue. I don't know if you do anything about it.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, and then, like, here's the bottom line I said. I called the company and said, okay, I'll pay the $4, give me your key, even though I think it's stupid, and it's gonna clear up my house, I'll do it. Then your representative, we called it the garbage company, the water company. The water company told me to call them. So the right hand don't know what the left hand is. I don't know if you charge of getting in another can. Your company told me
How you got it?
no.
Insurance.
143, Nathan Hill.
I'll take care of it.
And, I mean, I hate to be that way, but I just think it's bureaucratic. I can't use my own code, but I'm getting charged $4, I have to pay it. I think it's bureaucratic. Plus, I said, we're the same guy. So you go take care of it.
I will.
And I'll be charged the $4 extra.
I appreciate that.
That's my issue.
Thank you. Other questions from the
Yes,
council?
that's right. You were talking about being at the festival before. I don't know if you made it down there, but some of your people did, and we really enjoyed having them, great to talk with. But they got to see how beautiful and vibrant our downtown is. Obviously, we don't have 20,000 people on a weekend, every weekend.
Right.
However, we do have a very vibrant tourism industry. And all roads lead to our downtown. And that's where we send a lot of our guests. And garbage collection is on Friday coming into my little downtown. We need to change that route. That's what's greeting our visitors when they come into Georgetown, garbage cans. So if there's any way, I know it's tough, I used to be out at Public Works, and I was there when we made some switches. I know it's hard to do, but if we could, it would really enhance our downtown not to have those garbage cans out on Friday. And our visitors are in the town, so.
Yeah, that's reasonable. I think that there's nothing that tells me that we can't do that. So, we're gonna meet internally next week. Look at that volume and make recommendations into this. I'll just have to improve that as well. Absolutely.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
One of the complaints that I still get, and the complaints have gotten much less, so thank you for the improvements that have been made from the beginning. But they're still talking about a lot of garbage just flying around after they've picked up the can. And I realize that part of the issue might be that they're not putting things in bags. But I think that there had been an expectation when we had our own service that if there was stuff flying around, they'd pick it up and put it, but it doesn't seem like that's what happens with Republic. Is there any way that that could be improved, that if they see things that have just dumped out of the can, they'd pick it up?
Yes, I think it's a point of reemphasis that we can make with the drivers.
Okay.
That's similar to the why the carts tip over when you,
Uh-huh.
taking a couple of seconds of a shortcut. Right, so that's certainly something we can address with them. That's really the root cause of it, right, as opposed to treating the symptom.
Or bag breaks, and, I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
And there's, 1 or 2 days a year that we're gonna have, it's too windy and there's, no one's stopping that stuff.
But it's hard
But
not to
that's
notice
great.
that, yeah, and it's just a pride in the job, perhaps, thing, that when you see things that aren't going right,
That's right.
you self-correct.
I think, Arlene and the team at the City Hall do a great job of notifying us when there's an issue. Again, I'll give you my phone number, you're welcome to bring it up. The more information we have about where it's occurring, what day it's occurring, helps us sort of target and understand which drivers we need to
Okay,
emphasize more to.
thank you.
Any other questions from council members?
I sure appreciate
Yeah, I
you
appreciate you
coming
coming.
and giving
Yes.
us an update
Thank you.
and education, as well as letting us ask questions of you. Thank you for doing that.
My goal personally would be to do this once or twice a year.
That'd be great.
My preference is to do it right after the first of the year, because then at that point I can give you like a full years of how much do we recycle, what are things we're looking at. It's usually just slow time for council too.
That brought me a question on the recycling. So if like, I have a lot of cardboard.
Okay.
So like, I could load up my van and bring the cardboard out to the transfer station and dump it off out there or not?
That, I don't know.
That's
Different company.
It's different.
Rumpke has not invited me up
Okay. What do I do with my cardboard? I'm buying a whole bunch of more cans for it, so I need to figure out what I can do with my cardboard. So
there.
since you're giving my
I
new
don't
number.
know. I would expect that they have some sort of recycling option.
You can take your cardboard
Yeah, okay, good. Don't want it to fly around the community too much, so. All right, thank you.
I just have one more question.
Yes.
So Frankfurt does better than we do on the number of people that are recycling, the percentage. Do you have any suggestions on how to improve that?
I think that it is a number of things. One, so the city has some social media. They have the ability to address customers directly through their billing. Having reminders like that hey, you can sign up for this free service that you're basically paying for it and you're not receiving it. So you should sign up. I think that, of course, as adults we are all capable of learning. It's still important to teach children, right? Like, I never really believed in the idea that children make adults change, but they need to change. They need to understand our environment and how that works. So working with organizations like Bluegrass Green Source that go into community schools and educate that way. Green teams at the high school, stuff like that. We're totally open to doing anything like that. What I've learned in my career is that recycling used to be treated as this thing where we gave you one flyer, a new cart, and we're done. And that is not how it works. Like, the education has to be constant. Every year, we just have to keep doing it, and it never ends. And I think as a company, we've accepted that too, and build that into into our budgets, right? So that's a big part of it. Whatever help you guys can do, I think that would certainly be, I'll talk to any group of people, no matter how large or small, about anything, but particularly about recycling. And I think that, if we share this goal of getting to 50% participation, and we're at 25% now, if there's ways that we can communicate that message, whether that's on Facebook or however, like, that we could share in this, and I think that would also drum up support. We are I will share, we're pretty close to a point where in next year, we're gonna have to switch to an A and B week recycling service, right? We're gonna have that many customers.
We started off pretty good, Tammy. We were all more distracted by the implementation and the initial complaints rather than we were about marketing the recycling program. And it was a little bit tragic that the value of the recycling program almost got lost in the complaints.
Yeah.
Literally, the value of offering almost free recycling was lost in the complaints. So now we can turn our attention to growing recycling volume.
I mean, it might be fun to do a blitz or something and
you know, as the city, just to try
Let's
to
do
get
the,
people to
let's the
sign
city
up?
council do a commercial, a fun little commercial about recycling and put it on Facebook.
I mean,
Maybe the local
Perhaps.
paper, I don't
We'll let you
know.
arrange
We'll do that.
But those are good ideas. The other thing that I talked with Greg and Tim about is just to make sure we have a regular line of communication. I think they're willing to meet on a quarterly or twice a year basis, a more regular basis with the Public Works Committee. Greg and Todd have already put a lot of work into this whole transition anyway. That periodically to meet with the committee and then the committee can report to the full council in those interim periods when Greg's not before us with a big report.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So that way we, at least on some periodic basis, the committee is hearing, is having a chance to talk directly with Greg or one of his.
Yeah, in my mind, I think the goal of this second year, right, is to integrate ourselves, right, to really be partners, and part of that means being aware of what the issues are from both sides.
Sounds good. Robert, any concerns? I know you've watched this with alarm, but it's getting, but your thoughts at this point?
It has gotten better, I think. I mean, they do things differently than we do. But I did walk around with Tim and Robin and another guy, gentleman, I don't remember his name. And we looked at the downtown from ways. Tim then said they would get back to us. Hopefully we'll get to, right now the downtown seems to be the problem. And I did, you know, I do get some good calls. I talked to Dr. Merkingy today. He calls me all the time, and he did say that they were doing better, if you know Dr. Merkingy. And he said the only thing is, they never show up at the same time. I said, well, Doc, that's okay. At least they show up.
Well, and we got here 8 years ago promising to clean up downtown. And promising not to have garbage sit on the curb all weekend long. We had that routinely, Laurie, in the past. And that's been a goal. That's why it's such a sensitive area for us, Greg. We've really worked on this issue. If there are no other questions for Greg, Roy, go ahead.
Laura suggested then go, we as tourism might be able to step the plate, help out a little bit on spreading the word about recycling.
That's great.
Good. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
At the beginning of the presentation, I think you stated there was an average day consists of 4,000 stops. So there's 4.
That includes recycling.
Okay, so there's 4,000 divided by 6 total drivers, correct?
Yep.
So that's roughly 650 to 675 stops per day, per driver. And that's average in other communities as well, that one driver makes that many. Is that average?
It depends on your communities, right? So your classic suburban neighborhood, we can get upwards, some drivers can get over 1,100 a day.
In one day?
Yeah, some of them are really, really good. But I would say, yeah, like 700 to 800 is usually about the max that we'll see in this area. And again, it's like with wide streets and no cars parked on it, like it's a lot easier than to say anywhere close to downtown or close to where. I'll end with this. If y'all ever want to see a landfill, I'd be happy to take you up there. It looks different than one that's built in Scott County. Or going right along with the drivers. If you ever want, any constituents want that, we're happy to sort of expose the cool work that our folks do.
And Greg, we have learned that your drivers are photographing every stop.
That there's an issue at. Not every single stop.
Not every single stop, okay.
Right. But if there's anything that they leave behind intentionally, they need to document why that is. Otherwise, we're not going to defend them. We're going to say, you messed up, you do that.
So many times when you all call and we call, there's actually photographic evidence. So we frequently get really good answers with photographs. And you all have access to Greg now as well.
Yeah. We're installing tablets on all of the residential trucks this year. So the driver will actually be able to automate that process. And if they're registered for an account, we can notify them immediately that this is why we didn't service you today with an email. But again, like these, as we're able to create communications starting from us, it's going to make them happier.
Do you have a business card or leave your number with somebody or?
Yes, I'll leave my number with somebody.
Okay.
I forgot.
All right, that'd be great.
I can post everything.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Perfect. I
Okay.
appreciate your time. Thank you.
Greg, thank you very much.
so much.
Thank you. Okay. Next item on our agenda, number 8, Chase. I believe you have a number of items for us.
It's 4 tonight.
It's 4, yeah.
First is an update to our office policy manual, specific to our purchasing protocols, which is our limits and our procedures. These have not been updated in some time.
Excuse me, Mayor, it's a little hard for me to hear. I'm sorry.
Greg, could you all take your conversation outside?
Thank you.
This update that we're requesting, it'll bring us, I don't know if compliance is the right word because we're compliant now, but it'll align our procedures better with state procurement code and the city's procedures for purchasing. And we're, as I said, proposing the changes to the spending limits that I can include in your packet. I've included the current spending procedures and limits and put those right next to what we propose, so you can, hopefully that's an easy comparison. And board has actually recommended these and approved these, and so now they're coming to you all. Also, we've updated with the most recent changes to state procurement code, the amounts for direct purchases, formal and informal quotes, and bids. And we're doing this just, again, to better align with the city, but we're looking for efficiency. I bring a lot of business before you for your consideration. That does getting these packets done. It's a lot of staff work, and it just takes up a lot of your time, especially for what are routine purchases. So we're just trying to be more efficient in that manner. Again, that's happening almost every meeting now. So if you have any questions about this, we'll open the floor for discussion. If you like this, then I think what the goal is we would update the utility ordinance to reflect these new changes. So with that, I'll pause there and take questions.
Yeah, and it's a matter of maintaining appropriate controls without overburdening staff for routine activities. It's something we've talked about before. The changes look reasonable to me. Greg, did you see any?
I didn't see anything that alarmed me at all. I mean, it's, I'm surprised that they're currently that low, to be honest with you.
Yeah, some things need.
Considering the volume, yes.
Yeah. Any questions about that one? Is there a?
Motion made.
Thank you, Connie.
Second.
Thanks, Ed. And if there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? That's approved. Chase, go ahead.
With that, we'll just, as I said, I'll work with the city attorney and the finance director. We'll get that put into ordinance language. And that'll be one of many things that needs to be updated on the utility ordinance that we'll start with. So, next is just documentation on an emergency purchase order that I submitted to Devin and Stacy. Over the last 2 years, we've had even with the support of Enterprise Fleet Management, we've had a lot of trouble procuring trucks. In the last previous, not the current, but the previous 2 budgets, we couldn't get any of the trucks that we budgeted. So we rolled those into the current budget. We have 7 trucks in the current budget. That's for 3 years worth of purchases. And we're just
not being able to get anything sourced directly from manufacturer orders. They've canceled all of our orders over the past 2 years, and the first ordering banks that opened this year all canceled. Nobody's gonna honor the state price contract currently. We can't get any traction there. And so what we'd like to do is we're requesting permission to purchase directly from a lot. And these are just 2 of the budgeted 7 that we'd like to do this for. Those are the ones that are the most need, because we've got 2 that are beyond repair and need to be salvaged. So we'd like, again, these are budgeted. We'd like the permission to go, and as we find these, maximum of $45,000 for each vehicle. If we find it, we go buy it. Instead of finding it, asking them to hold it while we go through board and council approvals, by that time it's sold. Nobody's gonna hold these trucks these days. So we're asking, again, 2 trucks, $45,000 each, that we can go buy it as soon as we can. We will do our best to negotiate it down, and what we're looking for is the just duty truck, 4-wheel drive, half ton.
Mayor, make a motion.
Thank you.
And I'll second that.
Thank you. That's a sign of the times. Yeah.
Are we okay, I guess, I mean, from a legal perspective, you're comfortable with this as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting, Stacy and I talked about this, and we, based on the fact that they were budgeted, we didn't even know if we were gonna sort of classify it as a secret order, but, I think it's better safe than sorry to do it like this, based on market.
No questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next, we have project at wastewater treatment plant 2. This is for engineering services. This is design of new sludge storage tanks. It says a budgeted project, and we received price proposals from 3 firms, with the low proposal from Hazen Sawyer. That's $155,750. They've done good work for us on all their projects, so we're recommending approval of this engineering task order for this project.
Thank you.
Make a motion for approval, Mayor.
Thank you, David.
Second.
And second, Willow. If there are no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Thank you, Chase.
Last one, again, another treatment plant number 2 project. This is a construction contract. This is for a new grit removal system. We received bids, and with Pace Contracting being a low bid at $1,267,000. This is a budgeted project where it is $67,000 over our project budget. We've talked to Toyota. We're going to spread this over 2 years, which aligns with the construction schedule. This won't be any issue, so we're recommending Pace Contracting for this construction contract.
Thank you.
So there's 67,000 over budget?
Yes, that was, we had, 1.2 million budgeted for 1 year, and we just told them.
I mean, I know they were the lowest bid. Is there any room to negotiate with them to try to get them to match budget, or is that not, you know?
I think our engineer already did that, and they recommended just moving forward with this. And the longer we wait, we run the risk of material escalations.
Okay.
I'll make a motion for approval.
Thank you. Motion's been made, seconded. Is there any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? Thank you, Chase. Let's see, item 9 on our agenda under city attorney is first reading of an amendment to the short-term rentals ordinance. Sponsors Ms. Mitchell and Mr. Lusby. As Devin had indicated in her memorandum to the council, she was asked to look at 3 issues, I think, and determined that parking was already largely addressed by other ordinances and other provisions that we had on the books and could be enforced. And anything beyond that was going to be an administrative nightmare. The second one has been withdrawn, and that was any discussion of what they call a night cap, or a limit to the number of nights based on week, month, year That's been withdrawn, and there is no consideration of the mine cap. The only thing that is included in the ordinance is additional clarification, as we've discussed, a capacity at short-term rental units of 2 persons, 2 adults per bedroom, with 2 floaters. In addition to 2 adults per bedroom, 2 additional floaters, but in no case the total occupancy not exceed 10 people, including children. So that is the ordinance that's before you, and be glad to do first reading, and then we can have whatever discussion we want. Please.
An ordinance 2022-08 regarding short-term rentals within the city of Georgetown. 1, clarify the meaning of civil violation for purposes of short-term rental license revocation. 2, dictate that short-term rentals shall not be allowed in areas not considered to be primary dwellings. 3, establishes occupancy restrictions limiting short-term rentals to 2 adults per bedroom plus no more than 2 additional adults and having total occupancy at 10 persons regardless of the number of bedrooms available in the short-term rental. Limits bedrooms under 120 square feet to 1 adult occupant. 4, provides additional content required in all short-term rental advertisements and contracts, including a statement of maximum lawful occupancy for the specific short-term rental, a prohibition against hosting plays of the short-term rental, and a clear statement requiring that guests adhere to the city's code ordinances, including but not limited to noise, nuisance, traffic, and parking provisions. 5, provides for repeal of inconsistent laws, severability of provisions, and an effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the city clerk's office, 100 North Fourth Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and publicly read for the first time September 12, 2022.
Thank you. That'll be first reading. Would anticipate further discussion and roll call vote at the next meeting. But be glad to take any discussion. And Roy, if you're here, be glad to, any comments people have?
Just have a question, is 10 people, I mean, that number, is that reasonable number of people to have into a rental? I mean, is that comfortable when, I just think about like a couple of families maybe going together, and if they have extra kids, and might be 12 people including the kids, I mean, is that a comfortable number?
I don't know who you're asking.
Whoever wants to answer it, go for it.
10 is the number that this ordinance duplicates what Florence, Kentucky has already done. We didn't create this out of whole cloth. We actually copied an existing ordinance that Florence is using currently. We could put a higher capacity on it, and some might argue for a higher capacity, and argue well, frankly. It's a policy issue, and it can be discussed in either direction. What I finally did, Karen, in my final recommendation on the ordinance was between this 10-person capacity and a larger capacity, the 10-person that Florence did versus the larger capacity, I finally decided the more conservative approach that Florence had taken would be perhaps more fair to neighbors and citizens rather than the business investors, since these things exist in residential neighborhoods. So that was the logic. It was just a fairly conservative approach that lets a 10-person limit. Is my answer.
Okay, that's a good answer. Okay, on the business side of it, of someone that has a property, so what has tourism representing people, what are they saying?
There's a lot of discussion with it. Roy Cornett, We talked to Tammy and Willow and David about it. Laura Saunders is here, we've talked about it. And Stranger's back here, she's got some of that Parkside. So there's been a lot of discussion about it. And I think the short answer is we're okay with the way it's written. I would suggest the 10 unit, or 10 people. It doesn't say, is that a unit? Is that a house? Or is that a structure? And I've got 2 large buildings on downtown there across the courthouse. And I've got 2 Airbnb units there now. I've got one that's a 2-bedroom. You learn the description is a 2-bedroom, and they allow 2 per bedroom. And I've got a high bed couch there, at least 6. I've got another one upstairs that's currently just one big loft, 3, 9. I've got another unit on the second floor there that's currently got offices in it, but it's set up where it operates a 2-bedroom unit. I go that way, the office leaves, I put an Airbnb unit in there, it takes me to 15 in one building. And so what does the 10 unit do to that?
So it's not included in the amendment text because that part is not being amended, but the short-term rental definition that's included in the ordinance that's been amended clarifies that it's each unit. So if you have a contract on 1 unit, that's what the 10 would apply to. So I can share that definition portion with you as well.
That's fine, but let me be honest with you. I know the mayor's got a serious problem had to go to it. That building becomes 2 units. We got a problem.
If they could meet, they would have to meet ingress and egress and all the different fire code restrictions as well in order to do that. But to answer that question, yes, a place that is operating as one unhosted home sharing arrangement, they could break it, if they met all other laws, they could break into 2 units. You're correct.
The other thing I've mentioned, I talked to David about, is we've got some huge houses up and down East Main Street, South Broadway. I know you're in real estate business. Those big houses are not economically feasible for most folks as single-family residences. As an Airbnb system, it is a viable option to keep those things maintained nicely. But if the building of the old Pike House on the corner of Chambers and Main Street, I think the memory's right, we looked at that about it for years, it's got like 10 bedrooms in it. Is that will have 10 people up? And that's not on the table now, I just want to raise the question. David's comment was, we'll deal with that when it comes up, which is fine. That's why. I think it's legitimate thing to come up on this.
That one's already into units, Roy.
How many usually got in there?
3?
I don't know which one you're talking about.
The big house on East Main Street.
Oh, Chambers, Main, Bedford.
I think 3 or 4.
It was already
3 or 4. Yeah.
Called fire here.
So that one, if you look, we did this exercise only on one platform, but if we look on Airbnb in Georgetown for units that sleep 11 people, there were 3. One's out in Scott County, one is the house on East Main Street, and the other is the house on South Broadway. This is being done, this limit is important because this economic activity isn't confined to Mr. Cornett's buildings downtown. This economic activity is next door to your homes. And you have no right to stop it. You have no ability to stop it. So some limit is reasonable.
Like I said, I'm okay the way it's written.
Thank you.
I'm just raising a question about what it is.
You know, Roy, we talked a lot about it. We wore it out. You know, the limits, the 2 per bedroom plus 2, no matter how big. And it's kind of like the Wild West out there right now with Airbnbs and short-term rentals. We needed to do something and get started, and I think this is a good start. And you know, we worked on the taxing part of it a little earlier, and now we're coming back and we're coming in with something that we're going to see how that works. And I have a feeling we'll be back here again, you know, with something else, because it's important to our tourism. We want to do it right, but we got a lot of people that we need to protect while we do it, so that it works well for everybody.
I might share this thing, Parkside. I mean, one time when you put in there, she was putting 14 in there, and she's okay with 10. Truthfully, it was too much wear and tear on her house anyway.
Sure.
So she was doing 14, but she heard this.
It'll remain an open conversation, I feel like, you know, given all the conversation that we've had so far on it. So.
And if I could say something, I have struggled, like Tammy and the mayor and everybody else, to try to come up with something that is equitable for the proprietors, for the neighborhood, for the neighbors. I personally feel more comfortable with 2 adults per bedroom and 2 floaters, so that if you have a 5 or 6 bedroom home, it from an equity standpoint, I feel like that is more equitable. But it's a very debatable point, and you know, sometimes there's just differences of opinion, and you just have to take a vote and then revisit things later if we get more bigger homes that come on the market that want to be Airbnbs. But I personally feel 2 adults per bedroom and 2 floaters is a more equitable way to do it. But
Yeah, no problem. The ones downtown, just taking on, Rob Jones bought their apartments building. We're going to put an Airbnb in, so that's third floor of that building. So downtown's taking on. I mean, our downtown district is really thriving, and it's working out very well for all of us.
Okay, Roy, while you're up there, I just to kind of share, you and I spoke several times
Yes.
about this issue.
Appreciate your time.
You're quite welcome. I appreciate your insight. That helped me land and get more comfortable with the 10. I mean, you know, you can argue either way, and there's not necessarily a right or wrong. But after you and I spoke, I got comfortable with it, and I know you spoke with the young lady in the back row, and that was a very good example that she had housed more than 10, and it became a problem, right? And well, I thought the wear and the tear was.
Oh, yeah, just the wear and the tear.
The wear and the tear.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. Well, we've got 2 people that are obviously experiencing this. How much per bedroom would a house bring downtown Georgetown?
Downtown, I don't have downtown.
Speak the ones, I've got the 2.
Per night, I'm guessing.
I've got the 2 units, and the baseline for each of those is $85 a night with a 2-night minimum, plus a $50 cleaning fee. D.A. Harris has got one out there behind the courthouse, and he told me what D.A.'s getting out of here,
It's about the same as you, the average is about $178 if you average it all together, all the 45 properties there.
The one above Baba's, they're talking $150. I think that's actually just one big living room and one bedroom, I think, what it was. But Mayor, you have a problem, please understand, we have my sympathies on that, but working out common ground here is tough.
Yeah.
It is, but, and while I appreciate you mentioning my problem, Roy, I want to make clear, my problem and this ordinance are not the same thing. They're not connected, as hard as that may be to believe, that this is a general population ordinance to protect citizens in your neighborhoods. But thank you for knowing.
Yeah, my exercise on that, Roy, was, you know, you're obviously in the world of dealing with these numbers, but a 10-bedroom, or not a 10-bedroom, but 10 people in a house. Well, give me a number on what that would be per night.
About $230.
$230?
I'll charge more after like 4 people.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, drug church is percent occupancy.
Yeah.
My logic was, I think I could rent either one of those units out for $1,000 a month, plus utilities.
Right.
Month to month. I'm getting close to double that.
Right.
But yeah, I'm paying utilities, Handy clean. They're furnished, decorated, got my headaches dealing with it.
Yeah,
And so I figure if I'm not getting at least double
yeah.
for the effort, then it's not worth my trouble. And if we put the cap on there, the 100 nights, that's a deal killer. I wouldn't get double the money, therefore I'd be out there, it'd be that I'd be back to renting once a month, and we wouldn't be getting the bed tax. And the bed tax generates, you know, it's growing. It's gonna become more and more of an issue as far as going into tourism coffers. But that's the way the math works, in my mind. If you're not double, well, you're in business, manage stuff like that. That lady called me last night, 8 o'clock, I can't get my key out of the box. I had to deal with it.
All right, thank you, Roy. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have just a couple of questions. One is a comment, the no party thing, I think that's great, not to have parties to have to deal with. But on the enforcement of the noise and the nuisance and all that type of thing, so how will that be enforced? If there's a party next door that's getting out of control or whatever, then just call the police and tell them there's a party next door and they'll go over and calm it down? And if it doesn't calm down, what's the enforcement part to the property? Or let's say there's 15 people in someone's and they're consistently putting 15 people in it. What's the enforcement part going to be? How will it be enforced?
Devin?
On the noise issue, I mean, I'll be frank, enforcement of the noise ordinance is what it is, and I think GPD can speak to that. The process would be to call in a noise violation, and GPD would address it and ask the folks to calm down. I don't know what your all's practical experience is. My guess would be that for the most time, people quiet down and sometimes go to bed or go inside, or sometimes say, okay, the police are gone, we can do what we want now. So that's always an enforcement challenge that I think we're going to continue to explore. You know, we had this noise issue come up a couple of years ago. Actually, it continues to come up, but it's just one of those that all communities struggle with, so we can continue to see what better ways we can enforce that. As far as renting out over capacity, you know, our ordinance places the onus on the host there, which is, it's good and bad, but these platforms, they allow you to rate your guests and your guests to rate you. So everybody does have a vested interest in being a good host or guest. So the process that we described would be, we're not gonna go drive around and count who's at what house. Like, oh, I know this is a short-term rental and I see 20 people there. What's gonna happen is, if there is an actual issue with it and there's a complaint lodged, the opportunity would be for the complainant to either speak with a code enforcement officer or a police officer who can operate as a citation officer. So they wouldn't have to do that right away, but we would expect them to swear out an affidavit, because essentially what they're doing is they're filing a complaint that a notice of violation or citation would be issued as a result of. So they'll have to be on notice that if you're gonna swear under oath that this is exactly what you've observed, you might, if there's a hearing, you might be called to testify before the code enforcement board. So it's not something you can just say, hey, my neighbor's doing a bad thing. You're actually gonna be called upon to swear to it and things like that. So the process would be just like code enforcement. First offense, notice of violation. Abatement, in that case, would be that you don't do it again. If you do it again, citation, opportunity to appeal, so it would be the exact code enforcement process we utilize right now. I foresee us needing to use this very little. I think if you're gonna have a bad actor or two, you're gonna have a bad actor or two. I don't think this is gonna be a rampant issue. The easiest way, if we wanna see if people are complying, is to get on VRBO, get on Airbnb. And if anybody's advertising in excess of the ordinance, they're automatically, and I think as a matter of principle, we would do a courtesy notice before doing anything, especially right after passing this. But that would be the most blatant way to violate the ordinance, is advertising in contradiction to it. So, but the actual observation of a violation would probably be treated will be treated as an affidavit with a citation officer.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, there never was an intention to send somebody to a home and interrupt a family or interrupt a weekend. This is all after the fact remedies. Okay, if there are no other questions, we'll have second reading at the next meeting. Also under city attorney, this is kind of fun. A resolution approving a street name change, and this is This is changing the little bitty short stub of the street that's currently known as Prather Boulevard. We've got another use for that name, but we had to rename this little 100-yard street section that is currently Prather Boulevard, and I'm going to give full credit to this to Devin, because this little street is out in the vicinity of the tree streets, and it's a very short little street. We're proposing that you rename it Sapling Street.
I love it. I'll make a motion on that.
I second.
For sheer originality.
Oh, if there are no questions about that, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, gosh. Item C on your agenda is first reading of the 2022 property tax ordinance. And we have a very unusual set of circumstances that I think I can make every council member around the table at least somewhat happy with the tax rate that we're going to propose. I have always talked with the council about House Bill 44 gives the city the opportunity to increase their property tax revenues by 4% in real dollar increase over the prior year. And I've always encouraged us to adopt the rate that would allow us to have that 4% increase in real dollar revenue. This year, because our assessments have grown so rapidly, that even with us taking the 4% real dollar increase in property tax revenues, we will reduce the actual property tax rate significantly. Devin, from 6.5 to 6.4. So we both take advantage of that 4% that I think is appropriate for the city to do. But we also give our citizens the recognition that their assessments have gone up, inflation has gone up, and the property tax rate will reduce ever so slightly. So that is the property tax ordinances before you. We have the worksheets for you if you'd like to review them. It's very arcane math, but this outcome, I think, is a really good one for the community. And you go ahead first read.
In order to provide for enacting the real property, personal property, motor vehicle, and watercraft tax levels for city purposes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30th, 2023, includes whereas the city council of the city of Georgetown, Kentucky, required by KRS 92 to enact by ordinance each year a tax levy on all real property, personal property, motor vehicles, and watercraft. Now therefore be it ordained by the city council of the city of Georgetown, Kentucky as follows. Section 1. That the following tax levy is hereby made for city purposes for the city of Georgetown, Kentucky for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023 inclusive to it. For the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2022 and ending June 30, 2023 inclusive, there is hereby made a tax levy of 6.4 cents on each $100 of assessed real property, 6.4 cents on each $100 of assessed personal property, and 16.8 cents on each $100 of assessed motor vehicles and watercraft, which tax proceeds shall be designated to the general fund for the general operation of city government. Section 2. All matters relating to the payment of taxes imposed on motor vehicles and watercraft hereunder shall be in accordance with KRS Chapter 134.800. Section 3. Upon all taxes for real property and personal property levied herewith which are unpaid on January 1st, 2023, there shall begin to accrue, attach, and be added from said date a flat penalty of 15% onto the total amount of said taxes then due and payable through January 31st, 2023, after which the flat penalty shall be 20%. Additionally, tax bills not paid before March 1, 2023 shall have added to them interest at the rate of 1% per month or fraction per month until said taxes are paid. The penalty and interest as provided herein shall be added to said unpaid taxes and collected by the city finance director and or the city clerk. here, the city financial officer, the city clerk, and/or the city attorney are authorized to file suit to collect all delinquent taxes plus court costs and expenses, including a reasonable attorney fee incurred by reason of delinquency. Section 4, if any section, subsection, sentence, clause, or phrase in this ordinance is held unconstitutional or otherwise invalid, such a phrase shall not affect the validity of the remaining portions of this ordinance. Section 5, all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict with this ordinance are hereby repealed. Section 6, the ordinance shall take effect after its passage and publication according to law. Publicly introduced and read for the first time September 12, 2022.
Thank you. That'll be first reading. We'll anticipate second reading at our next meeting. The property tax rate also requires a public hearing as part of the process. So we will convene that public hearing at the very beginning of the next council meeting. My experience has always been we convene the hearing and no one speaks, and then we close the hearing and begin the meeting. But it is a legal requirement that we offer the public that opportunity, and we'll do that at the next meeting. Let's see, item 10 on our agenda. Stacy's finance system came back up and worked for her, so we have the quarterly financial report.
I apologize, this was delayed last time. We had some network issues. Before I get into the quarterly numbers, presenting the report for the quarter ending June 30, 2022, the mayor asked me just to make a brief comment. You may have seen in the news that Lexington LFUCG was recently the victim of a cyber scam, phishing scam. So we have had some conversations, myself, Andrew, Patrick, our new risk manager, about our internal controls, how we are doing things to prevent that kind of thing happening. So we feel that with our cybersecurity audits that we've had going on, with our internal controls regarding accounts payable, and also Patrick just pushed out today a phishing scam training for our employees, so that our employees can be looking for those kinds of things that come through. Because unfortunately we've all gotten those. Someone pretending or impersonating to be someone else. So we just wanted to let you know that we are looking into our own systems and controls to make sure that we are well protected. Yes.
Did somebody actually break into the computer system? Is that how it happened?
So we don't know the full details because there's an active investigation that I think FBI and Homeland Security are involved in, especially due to the amount of the money, federal money was involved. So we do believe that Community Action Council was the recipient of the money, and somehow the email conversation correspondence was intervened, whether it was done through a cybersecurity, I'm not sure, or if it was impersonation, but they pay via ACH.
Okay.
They contacted via email, said, here's our new bank account information.
Well, I'm glad that you all are on top of that.
Stacy, if I may add to that, we get those at work all the time.
Yes.
And what they are emails claiming to be from a certain organization or an individual wanting to change their deposit information.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
We get those probably 3, 4, 5 times a week.
I get them frequently as well.
So we have to, we have procedures in place that takes care of that.
Yes,
So
and we
that
do
don't-
as well. We currently, I say currently because I don't want to say we'll never go this route, but currently we do not pay our vendors via ACH. We do manual checks. However, obviously our employees are paid via direct deposit, but they have to go online into our payroll system to log in and change their direct deposit information. So we don't accept that via email. So.
Yeah, Greg, it sounds like the one that almost got Lexington was not at all sophisticated.
Not as much as most of them are. We have a sister company located in Missouri that they got 20,000 out of them, and before they even reckoned it, it was gone. They never recovered it, so it was pretty sophisticated. So they're very lucky that they got that back.
We've talked about the controls that can be in place. Just you have to have that verification, almost that personal follow-up of, we received a request to change this. Did you actually? You've kind of got to have that. that verification on the end and not just accept things come through emails, which is easily impersonated, unfortunately. So, with that said, obviously if you all have any further questions or concerns, you can contact me and Andrew, but like I said, we're working with Patrick to make sure we're protected as we can be. Quick update on the ending fund balance for fiscal year 22. That ending fund balance should be at least 21 million. We have not made all of our audit adjustments for receivables and everything else, so that number is without receivables booked, so there'll be additional added in, as well as some other audit adjustments, but ending with a healthy balance. And as always, we are going to look at our 5 top revenues with our quarterly financial report, and you have the detailed expenses. As I mentioned, our auditors are coming next month, so the receivables will be getting booked shortly. So the revenue numbers in the detailed report don't have the receivables in them, but I went ahead and added them into our top 5 revenues so that you can see the real picture of how we ended the year. So first, beginning with our largest revenue source, our payroll tax employee withholding, you can see that we are ending June with approximately 15.1 million. We budgeted 13.6 million, and this is approximately 450,000 higher than the previous fiscal year. And I like to just illustrate, we always budget conservatively, but I know when we were developing the fiscal year 23 budget, we tried to be optimistic but realistic with our projections. But we projected 14.75 million in the 2023 budget, so we actually this year beat that number. So we, of course, always try to track and we'll adjust later in the year. For net profits, on the second page, we budgeted 1 million. As we mentioned, we had budgeted a very low number for net profits because we were not sure how businesses were going to come out of the COVID pandemic year. And we ended the year with approximately 2.8 million. This is reflecting, you'll see that large negative number in June. Last year, we had 1.3 million of overpayments or credits due to businesses as of June 30, 2021. We don't have the new number for June 30, 2022 yet, so for now I'm using the same number as last year. The largest credit that makes up that 1.3 hasn't changed. I did confirm that with Scott today. So it'll just be the balance of the smaller credits that make up the 300,000 that could change. For insurance premium tax collections, of course, fiscal year 21, we were still at the 5% rate. Fiscal year 22 was our first year with the 8%, the revised rate. We budgeted 5.76 million. We ended the year with 6.1. For fiscal year 22-23, we budgeted 5.9, so I think we can feel confident in our budget number. So, got that. And property tax collections, we budgeted 2,050,000 and came in at 2.25 million. And we budgeted 2,000,013 for 22-23. And lastly, our alcoholic beverage regulatory fees. We budgeted 1.2 million. We collected 1,452,000. And we budgeted 1.465. So we have been seeing an increase. The increase has slowed down a little bit this past year, but you can still see the trends of the quarters. A couple of our quarters were lower than previous years, but it's always the same trend that always amazes me. People don't drink in the winter. I don't know what it is, January to March. Always the lowest quarter. There's no athletics going on. I don't know. Holidays are over.
Stacy, it's
Yes.
it's a very attractive revenue picture.
Yes, it is.
So the overall takeaway is we were conservative on some budget revenue estimates and we outperformed those.
Yes, yes. And even though we increased them for 23 budget, I think we can be very comfortable with our projections we made for the 23 budget. So. If you have any further questions, just let me
Any
know.
questions for Stacy about this report?
Yes.
Trying to do this without calculating.
That's okay.
On the insurance premium tax.
Yes. Do I need to get my calculator?
Going from 5% to 8%.
Yes.
Am I correct or incorrect? Changed by 1%, it's about, roughly about $800,000.
Yeah, because the total was about 2.5 million increase, so, yeah, about that.
$800,000 for each.
Yeah, that's a
Each
fair
1%.
assumption.
We like these kinds of reports.
I'm always happy to bring good news. Always.
Well done.
I think so.
If you have to
Thank you
wait
so
2
much.
extra weeks, then we can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Stacy. Now coming up my agenda. Let's see, Tim, under fire, we have first reading of an amendment to the fire code provisions. Sponsors, Ms. Hambrick and Mr. Showalter. Tim, I think this is just pretty much a technical ordinance.
It's just technicality, yes, sir. We was using the 2012 version. State Fire, we can't do any more than what State Fire Marshal does. They just went with the 2018 version for NFPA 1, and 101 is just the standards we use for inspections and so forth.
Sounds good, thank you.
An ordinance amending chapter 16, article 2 of the Georgetown Code of Ordinances regarding fire safety standards, summary 1, revised section 16-23 to provide for the adoption of the protected fire prevention code and its current and any future amended form to relieve food damage contained in section 16-24. 2, provide for the fulfillment of this law, several relevant provisions of effective date upon passage of public aid. Full text of this ordinance is available for examination. City Clerk's Office, 100 Fort Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40454, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and ruled for the first time, September 12, 2022.
Thank you. We'll have second reading at our next meeting. Item 12 on our agenda, under Human Resources, first reading of an amendment to the Personnel Ordinance. Sponsors Mr. Showalter and Ms. Hambrick.
An ordinance amending section 2-111 of the Code of Ordinances to abolish the position of fire inspector, add the position of fire marshal, and change the grid of deputy city clerk. Summary 1, amend section 2-111, subsection C of the Code of Ordinances to change the pay grade of the deputy city clerk from 67, add the position of fire marshal to the fire department, and remove the position of fire inspector from the fire department. 2, provide for repeal and maintenance ordinances severability provisions and effective date upon passage of publication. The full text of this ordinance is available for examination in the City Clerk's Office, 100 North Fourth Street, Georgetown, Kentucky, 40324, or at www.georgetownky.gov. Introduced and held for the first time September 12, 2022.
This ordinance really accomplishes all of the things that Chief Thompson had asked the council to put in place with his new command structure. This brings back the fire marshal, takes it out of the responsibilities of the assistant chief for prevention. Eliminates the inspector position. You could speak to how that works for you.
Yes, sir. When I took over the role of fire marshal in 2015, things have changed quite a bit in that particular role. And as we progressed, moving forward, and it turned into the assistant chief of prevention, and then having code enforcement under it, I felt even for myself, it was too much from one person. By doing this and taking the fire inspector position, turning it into the fire marshal position, eliminating that, we can add more responsibilities to the inspector. They can still do the inspections, do plan reviews, but it allows, just like I did when I became fire marshal, some opportunity for that assistant chief of prevention to grow into that position. We're excited for that position to be able to do more things in the community. I just don't want to saddle our new assistant chief.
Good. All right, so that will, we will have second reading and roll call vote at our next meeting. Item 13 on our agenda under Police Department is a resolution approving a victim against women.
Violence against women.
Thank you. Violence Against Women Act grant application.
Motion made.
Thank you.
Second, Mayor.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? We currently have funding for one of these officers, special officers. This application is going to be requesting a second. They work better in teams, and so we're pretty excited about the opportunity not only maintain this program, but to double our impact. And that gets us down to the last item on the agenda, council comments. Mark, can we start with you? You're good. Yeah?
I'm good.
All right. Todd?
One, couple things, how great of a job all of our city employees did with Festival of the Horse, Lori and her crew, 2 parades, 3 parades technically, and everything else that went on downtown. Police department had a fatality accident go on, and the fire department jumped in and helped with the honor guard. Public Works was there early in the morning till way hours of the night, so they all deserve a pat on the back, so they did a great job. And then the last thing I've got is September the 18th at 3 p.m. The Perfecting Praise Center over on Chambers Avenue are having a clothes and toy drive with free food for the day. The fire department's going to be there as well. Any clothes that you have that can be donated, food donations, toys as well, for the coming winter months, for the church over there. They're trying to help stockpile some stuff up, that way they can give out as winter gets closer. So should be a great event. They're going to have some food there for everyone, so should be a great afternoon.
Good. Anything else, Pat?
No, sir, I'm good.
Thank you. Okay?
I'm good, thanks, Mayor.
You're good?
Mayor, I guess the same, Lori, and the fine job that she did. All the departments, Public Works, I know they put extra effort in this past week, and it showed, as you mentioned. And then Saturday morning, we had the Heart Association walk, and Deborah kind of led the charge for that, so that was nice. Busy weekend.
Deborah was so proud of herself for putting that team together. And Willow, several of y'all jumped in and really supported her when she was kind of panicked that her team wasn't going to pan out. But
Yeah.
she was so dedicated to that, you all. When you see her, be sure and
It was a
and
good
mention
event,
it to
yeah.
her. But yeah, thanks for mentioning this.
Same thing on the Festival of Horse. It was great, lots of fun, lots of activity, people down there, and it's great to get everybody coming to Georgetown for it and going downtown. And then just a request for some streetlights over in Cherry Blossom, the area that's called the Villa area. It's the area that you go in Ichabana and back in that section. Apparently, they need streetlights back in there. So
Well, that may have to do with the timing of their development, in terms of completing certain things. We can, I don't mind if we call and check on that. but-
okay, all right. Well, that's the area that they're.
Yeah.
it says
They're
it's little-
typically decorative posts, aren't
Those are decorative posts. Some are more decorative than others. I think the KU lights, is that KU or do you know?
That's really kidding. So if you can check on that for them, there's in that area, there's a lot of older folks that live in that area, so they need some light, but that's it.
they? Thank you. Great.
Just basically the same comments that Todd and David and Karen had about Festival of the Horse. Had a great time. It was fun participating in the parade Saturday night. So really good time. Thank you.
Good stuff. Well,
Yeah, the festival was great. Also, the Heart event was a lot of fun, and I appreciate having a lot of the city employees give to that. I do have a few people that contact me about, and I've talked to the mayor about this, about the Royal Spring Park, that when people pay the $75 to rent the park, that they have an expectation that when they arrive for the event, that the porta pots will be presentable and the garbage cans will be there empty that are there on the property, and that the grass can be relatively mowed. I think we need to do something to get better coordination between the events that are registered and the schedule for cleaning the parks, and if that's possible to do that in a more efficient way, I think that would be helpful. Also, do we have I know the West Main Street is starting to look great. Do we keep kind of pushing back the time for completion, but do you think it might be done by first of the year?
They're saying November now, Willa.
Okay. That would be great.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that completed. Obviously, we now know they've shifted to the other side of the street.
Right.
Well, I just know there'll be a lot of photographs taken right beside that big Georgetown
Right.
lettering.
It's looking terrific.
It's gonna look good.
Yeah.
We will finish it this year. Eddie's assured me that, despite all of our various delays, that November we should see it complete.
Fantastic. That's all, Mayor. Thank you. And thank you to the Finance Committee for this report. It's always very well done. And, you know, there aren't a lot of cities that have a bottom line like ours. And I just think it's fantastic that we live where we do and we have the revenue coming in the way we do. So, thank you.
Thank you, Willow. I want you all to know that my response to Willow concerning the condition of the park before you might have an event down there is it's my expectation that it stays that way all the time. That's what I expect. Your fee doesn't necessarily pay to pick up trash and mow the grass. I understand you have an expectation that those things will be done, but it's my expectation that the park stay that way all the time. And that should be what we're striving for. And so it's an opportunity to do better, without a doubt.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Anything else to come before the council?